Something to be aware of that trips a lot of people up and really limits our intellectual, spiritual, philosophical, psychological growth, and that's blind spots. And we all have them. We have areas in our life that we're just absent to shine the light on. We don't expose them for the weaknesses, the shortcomings, or the failings that we have. And it's strange. I was having a conversation with someone I consider to be an intelligent person, intellectual Mensa member, and when the light is shined on areas that expose some shortcomings, that there's that immediate tendency for the ego to go up and defend, and that's why we're so. It can create stagnation because we don't want to own our own areas of weakness that need to be strengthened. It's like, if we're all okay in saying, I don't have strong biceps, I'm going to go to the gym and exercise, do some curls, or I don't have stamina and I'm going to start running. But when it comes to personal character traits, habit patterns, denial is a very powerful tool that really limits our potential. And to complicate matters, we don't often encourage other people to be radically honest with us. So we don't give people permission to, shine that light on areas in our life that need improvement. Now, there's areas in our lives that we might say, this is a weakness and I accept it and I'm at peace with it, and the amount of energy I need to change myself is not worth the benefit. Fair enough. But I think the trouble comes when we delude ourselves. And if you ever read the book Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, there's one chapter about how to sugarcoat things and how to, kind of like a sandwich. You give if you're going to criticize someone, first you give them a compliment, then you give the criticism, and then you give another compliment. And our egos have become so fragile that we need to come up with all these special techniques in order to deliver something that really can be helpful to a person. It might not be easy for them to hear, but it could be of benefit. And I think that's really sad. And oftentimes we can't see our own faults. So, there was an example. I went out with a girl. We went on a first date, and it was okay. It wasn't spectacular, but I thought, I'm going to give this girl another opportunity. She might have thought the same thing, give me another opportunity. We went out on a second date, and then I started really talking about things of depth and substance and, going deeper than the normal superficiality of the dating scene. And when I called back, I said, hey, would you like to get together for a third date? There was no response. And she didn't return my call. And so I had to leave a second message, and I said, listen, I totally understand I might not be your type, that there's not a connection, but just leave me a message and let me know what it was that was the problem, because it's helpful feedback for future people that I might go out with. And I had to just kind of force the issue to let her know it's okay, that she can give me her constructive criticism. And she texted me back and said, we're just on a completely two different wavelengths. And I thought that was great. So that's one example. And then in our personal lives, often our friends, family, people that know us well have great insights to our character, to our shortcomings. Also the things that are good about us, and those should be emphasized as well. But often those are non-issues because we easily receive them. People comfortably are able to give them. But I think the real key comes to just making a declaration to your circle of friends and family to say, listen, I want to know, I want to grow. I want to grow spiritually. I want to grow intellectually. I want to grow psychologically. I want to grow emotionally. And the only way I can do that is find, like a professional athlete, they find areas, holes in their game, and they work on strengthening them. If shooting free throws is a weakness, then they'll just sit there and practice. So we need that same exposure. We need that same light. And also, it helps to kind of strip away the ego, because what causes all that resistance and defensiveness when we do receive constructive criticism is the ego. It diminishes our self-worth and our sense of being, and we feel less than because our self-worth is dependent on people's approval. I mean, that as from very young children, that's how we've been conditioned. Approval, we feel good when people like us, and disapproval, we feel bad. I always loved Jim Carrey would say he would go and intentionally fail doing stand-up at a show with the goal to get booed off stage. And he said he wanted to release that attachment to approval because then it would free his creative abilities. So it's just something that it helps chip away the ego when we are receptive to constructive criticism and feedback. And also something that's a real blessing and takes a burden off us is practice not being defensive. And this is a real challenge. And you get better at it as time. And remember, baby steps. But I remember I was at work, my old job I used to have, and I was really focusing and trying to practice this principle of non-defensiveness and just absorbing it was a place that was highly critical, negative, a lot of negativity, and so people were constantly, coming down on each other. And there was times when my boss, would sit me down and tell me things and criticize me, and I didn't even do it. It was something that I didn't even do. And my first, no, I didn't do that. I wasn't there. And then I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna be. If he asks me, then I'll go ahead and tell him, what occurred in a calm, non-defensive manner. But if he doesn't ask me, I'm just going to let things be. And I had this sense of liberation when my identity, my self-esteem, my value system, my motivation in life is independent of what people of approval or disapproval. It's freedom. Thanks for listening.